The amount of work that happens, and I do mean work, behind the scenes to prepare a National Football League team to just get prepared further, blow your mind. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. The Steelers have actually begun their off-season training activities, or as they're commonly referred to, OTAs. They're just under no obligation to share any of that with anybody, and so they don't. The first portion that's open to people like me, reporters, doesn't come until almost a month from now. That's May 27th through the 29th. Now, don't confuse that with rookie minicamp, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. That's just for the players who were acquired through the draft or undrafted free agents, anybody who's brand new. But this other thing, the OTAs, they're happening right now. And I wanted to kind of take a break from all the usual draft / Aaron Rodgers stuff that we've been doing for a while to call at least some small amount of attention to that. Now, how can I do that without being allowed in? Well, for anybody who doesn't know this, I'm going to let you in on a little something. If you go to the Steelers official website, Steelers.com, and you tap the menu item that's marked Photos, you can go there and find a section that's marked 2025 Phase 1 Off-Season Workouts. And you will find there some excellent work by the team's excellent photographer, Carl Roser, as well as some work by a couple others who work there. And you'll see, in addition to some just really cool pics of guys doing different things, you'll see, to some extent, who's there and who isn't. And you'll see some of their expressions, and you'll see some of the extra work they're doing. And Jaylen Warren pumping the iron. Broderick Jones is in a bunch of the photos looking like he's working his rear end off. Roman Wilson, who gets asked about constantly, is all over these things. DK Metcalf, who doesn't have to be there. In fact, none of them have to be there. These are 100% voluntary. If you decide not to go, there's not a thing anybody can say to you. But there's voluntary, and then there's giant Seinfeld-like quotes, voluntary. And you gotta love, for example, that Metcalf, as accomplished as he is in the National Football League, says, hey, I have an opportunity here to be around these guys, get to know them, work with them, hopefully develop some mutual trust. There's one shot of a bunch of wide receivers just running, regular old laps out in the field. 5 of them. There's Metcalf, there's Calvin Austin, there's Brandon Johnson, there's Scotty Miller, and there's Roman Wilson. Now, you can choose to hear me say those names and say, well, where was George Pickens? Well, I don't know that George is or isn't there, because this particular set of pictures is all taken on one day. So I choose to look at it from the more positive perspective. I love Broad being there, and just visually, you can just see what he's putting into it. The same thing goes for Jaylen. This is such a big year for both of those guys. Keanu Benton is another one. All over these things, lifting, sprinting, stretching. Think about the competition he's about to face. Pat Freiermuth, set in stone starter. He's there. He's doing everything. You can see it. Not to be outdone, the other tight end is in-house as well, Darnell Washington. No surprise here, but both of the team's quarterbacks who are actually signed to contracts, well, one of them is on a futures, but they're also there. Mason Rudolph can be seen in a bunch of these images, and so can Skylar Thompson. One might say it's no day at the beach for them. Oh, come on, I wasn't going to pass that up. Beanie Bishop, Brandon Eccles, the 2 guys most likely to compete at slot corner, and what's probably going to be the battle of camp. See, I love this stuff. I know there are people that are that are way more into stuff like who might they get in a trade or who might they sign or whatever, and all this hypothetical stuff. I'm not. I want to see real stuff This is real stuff. These guys are really here. They're really preparing themselves. They're really showing something. They're setting themselves up for a competitive, spirited camp. They're working with each other. They're spotting each other. They're stretching each other. You can see it all through these pictures. And, well, listen, I've made the point. Go check these out. If you want to get yourself in a healthy mind frame regarding this football team and not worry about or fret over what so-and-so person who doesn't even cover the Steelers has to say about this or that, or all this nonsense about Deion's kid. Go find these pictures. Immerse yourself in them. It is very much worthwhile. And I'm going to apologize retroactively because I know this is a weird subject for the show, but it's something that I was doing myself yesterday, and I promised myself at some point I'd bring it up with you, and then it just happened to come right out. So when we come back, J1Q.
This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar.
Welcome back. See, now I feel guilty, not just for potentially wasting your time on that opening subject, but I mean, presuming you thought it was a waste of time. For me, it isn't. But I feel now like I should have gone through some sort of complete list of who all's in these pictures, but I don't even think that would be fair because, as I mentioned, there are all kinds of other days that weren't necessarily shot by the team photographers. But like, as I'm talking to you, I'm still scanning through these things, and I see these shots of Joey Porter Jr., who obviously is also an entrenched starter, doesn't need to be there. But this is a big, big year for him. He doesn't want to be the weak link while Darius Slay is getting all the headlines over there on the other side. And you also can kind of do your own reporting, which is to say, like, I see some of these pictures of Roman Wilson where he's getting some really, really, really athletic stuff going on. After the kind of rookie year that he had, that's pretty encouraging. Anyway, J1Q, let's do that. Jeff says, DK, if somehow Aaron Rodgers doesn't work out, and I am crossing my fingers that it doesn't, is there any chance the Steelers could bring back Ryan Tannehill out of pseudo-retirement to back up Mason Rudolph and help Will Howard and others to learn Arthur Smith's offense? Now, the technical answer to that, Jeff, and I've thought about Tannehill myself, is yes, he's 36 years old, which means he's young enough to be Rodgers' grandson. He is, by every accounting, open to returning for a 12th NFL season after not playing at all for anybody in 2024. But his preference, according to that same accounting, is that he'd want to do so for a contender. Now, everyone's got a different definition of contender, and sometimes when words like that get spoken, what they actually mean is they would prefer to start for a contender, and that list is really short. So most likely what you'd have is a scenario similar to the one when Tannehill was last playing. That was for the Titans, and he lost his job to Will Levis and then just kind of vanished. So maybe there's some kind of match with the Vikings, the one team that everybody's always citing, even as Minnesota management continues to insist that J.J. McCarthy is going to be their starter at age 22. But again, the answer to your question is yes. Now, you didn't ask me this, but I'm going to go ahead and answer it anyway, which is, would I like to see him come here? I mean, you can throw all kinds of asterisks on top of that. You can say, well, you got to make sure he's healthy. You got to make sure he's still an athlete. You got to make sure he still really wants it, because there's also a school of thought that the longer you're away from football, the longer your odds are of all the way wanting to get back into it. So there are a lot of questions that would have to be asked of him, and they would be hard questions. But yeah, obviously the best years of Tannehill's career were with Arthur and vice versa. So there'd be a lot of potential good out of something like that. Tannehill's not somebody who's going to come in and disrupt you or mess you up or not participate in 3/4 of all your summer activities, go be the guest host on Jeopardy or any of that other stuff. And again, he'd be a half decade younger than Rodgers without any sort of 2024 damage having been done to him. So yes, I would entertain that. Yes, I would prefer that to Rodgers. And yes, I'm surprised that doesn't come up more often. I appreciate that you did bring it up, Jeff. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. I'm going to do another one of these tomorrow.